I'm doing it live and I'm doing a pre-recording. So stick by me. Stick by me. Let's get it. Welcome back. Welcome back. How y'all doing? I'm in the space today. Today we are gonna talk about the brain's habit loop. The brain's habit loop. I got my research up. I'm gonna run through these. I'm gonna run through these real nice. I'm actually live as well. So I'm live on YouTube and I'm doing the pre-recording as well. So y'all be able to watch this from two different angles. Maybe one day I'll have the third angle up too, but I don't really like doing all that editing. I don't really like doing all that editing. Again, I got the same water lily rainwater joint lit. I'm gonna light a different candle for tomorrow's video, and I just burned it. Oh no, it's not burnt. All right, we're gonna get straight into it. The brain's habit loop, right? Your habits, the habits that you have in your life are very powerful, and they're very powerful. And we need to create positive habits. We need to have positive habits within our lives, so that we live a more fulfilling and more positive life, right? Your habits dictate how your life ends up, right? If you have bad habits, you're gonna end up in bad situations. So we try not to have bad habits. I feel like this thing is in a weird position. That looks better. That looks a lot better. So your habits shape, is this on? Your habits shape your daily routines and ultimately our lives. But how do habits actually form? How do habits actually form? It comes down to what researchers call the habit loop, which consists of three stages: the cue, the routine, and the reward, right? The cue, this is the trigger that signals your brain to start a behavior. For example, feeling stressed might be a cue to reach for snacks, right? It may be a cue to reach for food. It may be a cue to whatever the cue is, right? You may have when you're depressed, you may isolate yourself, but you need to figure out what your cues are and what the triggers are, right? Uh, so if you are sad, instead of going and eating that ice cream, you might want to go read a book or you might want to go exercise. Those are better habits to have than just eating ice cream, binge watching TV. Well, you could watch TV, but you got to watch something that's gonna add to you, not something that's just like pure entertainment, especially when you're in a depressed mood, right? And these are just examples, right? So the routine is the behavior itself. In our example, it could be the eating of the snack. Once you eat in the snack, hey, what's up, everybody? Once you eat in the snack, and it becomes a habit, that becomes the reward, which is the third thing, the satisfaction or relief you feel after completing the routine. This reward reinforces the behavior, making it more likely to repeat in the future, right? So you become depressed or you become sad about whatever the case may be, and there's many different things that come into it. And then in order to alleviate that stress or that depression, you go and you decide to eat some snacks. You decide to, let's say, um eat some snacks or binge watch TV or sleep your day away, whatever the case may be, or you start doing drugs, right? That then becomes the reward. And if the reward is not something that's beneficial to your life, that's when you're going to end up having negative habits, bad habits, right? Um, so the ganglia is a region deep within the brain, right? This plays a key role in forming and storing habits. It acts as the brain's autopilot, helping us perform actions without conscious thought once they've been learned. This is why habits can feel so automatic. Your ganglia is hard at work behind the scenes, right? So it's your technically basically a subconscious, right? You feel like something is beneficial to you, and it's not more, for me personally, I feel like it's not the habit, it's the reward. It's things that come after it, right? So you may be depressed, and your depression is not the issue. It's the thing that you use to mediate your depression, right? Instead of being depressed and going to seek help, seeking a therapist or reading a book or going to exercise or listening to music to alleviate your stress, your depression, you go and you stress eat. And then that's going to have negative effects not only on your body and your mind, well, not only on your mind, but also your body, right? Your body is going to be affected because at the end of the day, the stress eating, 9 times out of 10, you're not eating food that's beneficial to your life. You're going to be eating ice cream, snacks, whatever the case may be, and those things are going to hinder you in terms of your physical health. When you repeat a behavior often enough, your brain creates a neural pathway for it. Over time, this pathway becomes like a well trodden trail in the forest, making the habit easier to perform. This efficiency is beneficial for conserving energy, but also makes breaking bad habits challenging, right? And there's research outside of what I'm reading right now, what I've like come up with for this video today. There's research that shows it takes 21 days to perform a habit. Well, 21 days to perform a habit, to form a habit, and 21 days to break one. Right? So you may get into this form of where life feels like you're on autopilot with bad habits, and then one, it's being able to recognize that you have the bad habits, that the habits are that you are forming are bad. You got to be able to realize that those are bad habits before you have the chance to break those bad habits, right? Because if you don't think what you're doing is negatively affecting your life, then of course you're not gonna feel like there's anything that you need to change. So that goes into the neuroplasty, right? Neuroplasty is the brain's ability to change and rewire itself. It means that no matter your age, you can form new natural connections and reshape existing ones. This is the foundation for replacing bad habits with healthier ones, right? Yeah, you got to dig deep down within yourself to figure out what your habits are, right? And you got to fully break yourself down. It's not as easy as it sounds, right? Being able to break yourself down and look at yourself from the outside in, and being able to realize who you are. And that's what I preach a lot in my videos. If you guys go back, and especially within the 100 life truths and everything I've done after that, it is all about making sure that you know yourself before you do anything, right? Knowing how you react in certain situations, knowing what stress does to you, your mind, body, and soul, your physical, and everything beyond that, and then going on to figuring out what it is, what's going to take for you to have more positive outcomes, more a better outlook on life, right? The brain doesn't erase old habits. Instead, it builds new pathways that can override them. Replacing an old habit with a new one involves consistent practice to strengthen a new neural pathway, making it a default over time, right? So um it's hard because when you stressed out, you may, like I said, we go back to the same example, we can stay on that same example for the video, but you see the stress, right? And you become stressed or whatever the case may be, and your default is to go stress eat, right? And it's gonna take time, especially the first couple days, right? It says changing habits of changing habits take effort and patience. Studies suggest it takes anywhere from 21 to 66 days to perform a new habit, depending on the complexity. The key is consistency. Every time you perform the new habit, you're reinforcing the neural pathway, right? Um so yeah, those first couple of days, that first set, the first times, then you're like trying to change your pathway and change your idea of reconciling whatever the trigger is gonna be hard, right? It's gonna be hard because you're going from craving these foods or craving these bad habits to really being your own accountability partner and stopping yourself from stress eating, stopping yourself from whatever the case may be, smoking, doing drugs. You know what I mean? You gotta be able to stop yourself and find something to somewhat distract yourself from the negative, right? Find something positive to distract from the negative, or even a lesser evil. You know what I mean? uh, so some strategies for breaking bad habits, right? Identify triggers and replace them. The first step is breaking a bad habit is identifying its cue. You got to know what it is. You got to know yourself, right? Once, and it could be people. It could be your trigger could be work. You know what I mean? It could be anything. The first step in breaking a bad habit is identifying its cue. Once you know the triggers, replace the routine with a healthier alternate. For existence, if stress triggers unhealthy snacking, try deep breathing exercise or quick walks instead. Gradual change in small steps. Big changes can feel overwhelming, so focus on small, achievable steps. For example, if you're trying to reduce screen time, start by setting a 30-minute limit for social media each day and gradually decrease it over time. Right? A lot of us are addicted to social media, and a lot of us, our screen time and our social media is not only our trigger, but it's also our reward, right? Um, Build a support system. You have to be your own accountability partner. I preach that um, up and down. You got to be able to hold yourself accountable because no one is going to be able to hold you accountable the way you can, right? You have to be self-aware. Self-awareness comes with a lot, and it's painful. Self-awareness is painful because you realize who you really are, and you realize that you can't hide from yourself. You may be able to hide on social media, or fake the funk on social media, or lie to people, but you can't lie to yourself. You shouldn't lie to yourself. You should be honest with yourself and be able to break down your triggers, break down your bad habits, your good habits, what makes you you, right? And not everything needs to be bad. It's just who you are. And if you want to be better, you got to be able to break yourself down, because you can't be better starting from a lie. You have to start from the truth and start from honesty and really break yourself down, because that's the most effective way, right? So accountability is a powerful motivator. Share your goals with friends and families, or find an accountability partner to keep you on track. And I think it should go both ways. If you find someone that's keeping you on track, you need to keep them on track as well. But you guys both have to be honest within yourselves, to yourselves, and then be able to find someone that you trust and respect, that's going to be able to hold you accountable. And you're going to have to be able to listen to what they say. If if the I'm trying to think of an example. Okay, so say your stress trigger is to eat, and your accountability partner says, okay, if you don't stress eat, you know what I mean, instead of eating when you stress, you come to me and we talk and we have these discussions to see why you're stressed, or whatever the case may be. Then you can be rewarded with a snack at the end of the day, or a snack at the end of the week, or whatever the case may be. Or if you stress eat, your accountability may be that now you got to go work out for an hour, you know what I mean, just so that you can uh alleviate the negative effects of the snacks and stuff that you're eating. Joining support groups or online communities can also provide encouragement and shared experience, right? So the science of motivation, right? Dopamine and habit formation. Dopamine, often called feel good neurotransmitter, plays a major role in habits. It releases not only when you receive a reward, but also in anticipation of it. This is why some habits are irresistible. Your brain is wired to seek the reward. We're all looking for a reward and validation within the things that we do. So if we're doing certain things knowing that we're going to get a reward for it, then it's more likely that we're going to do those things, right? Intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. While extrinsic motivations like rewards can kickstart a habit, intrinsic motivation, doing something because it aligns with your values, it helps what is what helps maintain it. For example, exercising for health, intrinsic, rather than appearance, extrinsic, often leads to more lasting change, right? So you got to figure out, are you doing this for you, or are you doing this for the inward validation or the outward validation, right? It's one thing to work out to look good, but it's another thing to work out because your health requires it, right? Habit stacking and anchoring. Habit stacking and anchoring. What is habit stacking? Habit stacking involves pairing a new habit with an exciting one. For example, if you want to start journaling, do it right after brushing your teeth in the morning. This leverage an already established routine to make a new habit stick. Correct. That's correct. I actually do that. Um, when I do one thing, I add something onto it, right? So I like listening to music. So when I listen to music, now I read or I write at the same time, or I do my research while listening to music, because that's not only a cue, but it's also the trigger and the reward, right? And you have to find things that, it circumvents itself. The reward then becomes the cue, right? Attacking habits to predict parts of your daily life, like mealtime or commuting, creates consistency over time. Over time, this consistency transforms new habits into automatic behaviors, right? So if you know you have to do certain things every day, you got to get up, you got to make your bed, you got to get dressed, you add habits to those, right? So after you brush your teeth, you do, 50 push-ups, you know what I mean? While you're driving to work, you listen to an audio book to expand your vocabulary, certain things like that. Emotional impact of habits, right? The emotional impact of habits, the emotional reward of habits, right? Emotions play a significant role in reinforcing habits. Positive emotions tied to a habit makes it more likely to repeat. For example, the sense of accomplishment after a workout can motivate you to keep exercising. And that's what it is for a lot of people that go to the gym, right? I've had a weird, I wouldn't say weird, but I've had a interesting relationship with the gym. Like I will go to the gym for a month and then not go for like 2 months, and then go for 2 months and then not go. But I do a lot of at home workouts. I do need to get more. I need a more steady routine, right? I need to be able to work out, and it goes back to anchoring and stacking habits, right? Which I don't necessarily do with working out, because I like to actually go to the physical gym. I don't really like working out at home. I don't like work at home workouts. But the sense of accomplishment from working out is motivation to keep working out. That burn that you feel after leg day, or after you're doing your arms, you're doing your abs, and it motivates you to be like, damn, this feels good, and then you want to keep doing it. And also the physical results, you get to actually see the physical results of working out. Like some habits don't have physical results in terms of like reading. Yeah, your mind is expanding, but you can't see that. You can't look in the mirror and see the physical results, right? um Mindfulness and disrupting triggers. Mindfulness helps you recognize the emotions driving your habits. When you're aware of your triggers, you can consciously pause and choose different responses, breaking the cycle of automatic behaviors. Yeah, so that goes back into knowing yourself and being able to take a step back and realize what life is for you, right? And who you are for life, and what positives you have and what negatives you have, right? And being able to break down who you are to the core, breaking down who you are to the core, right? How much more we got? Yeah, not too much more. The role of willpower. Willpower is a finite resource, right? Willpower can be depleted with overuse, so it is important to conserve it by planning ahead. Automatic habits like setting a meal prep routine reduces the need to rely on willpower. Correct. You got to pre-plan your responses and your triggers, right? If your trigger if your response to whatever the trigger is to eat, is to eat snacks and stress eat and eat ice cream and eat cookies and cakes and stuff like that, stuff that isn't conducive to your health and to your body, to your physical, mental, then remove those things from your pure view. Remove those things from being so easily accessible, right? If you don't have snacks in your house, when you're stressed out at home, you can't eat snacks. It's just, you know what I mean? You may have the willpower to go to the store and go get those snacks, but then that's a bigger problem, you know what I mean? You have to limit your access. You have to limit your access, and that goes back into being an accountability partner. Hold yourself accountable to not go out and buy the things that you know aren't good for you. You know what I mean? Start there. Um, buy more healthier snacks, right? It can be snacks that mimic mimic the snacks that you're used to, but they're more on the healthier side, you know what I mean? So you need to cut it down, and just sooner or later you'll be able to break it down to eating something even more healthy or more conducive to your life, or just having not eating as a reward in general. Some tips to conserving willpower: simplify your environment by avoiding temptations. For instance, if you're trying to eat healthier, keep junk food out of the house. These small changes reduce decision fatigue and makes good habits easier to follow. Yeah, decision fatigue. Decision fatigue. I'm gonna get on that in a second too, right? I'm gonna get on decision fatigue in a minute. Um, yeah, decision fatigue is big, right? Uh, let's see. Yeah, data on small changes leads to big results. And this is something that, if you've watched the 100 Simple Life Truth, if you've watched literally any episode, at some point I have mentioned the 1% better principle, right? Which shows how incremental improvement compounds over time for massive growth. You gotta you gotta set yourself up. You gotta set yourself up for small wins on a daily basis, right? One simple win can make you 1% better each day. And if you get 1% better each day, at the end of the year, you'll have an ex what's the word? You will have gotten better by an excessive amount. For instance, if someone who quit smoking by replacing cigarettes with gum and daily walks, you know what I mean? Just that one cigarette that you don't smoke and you replace with some gum or a walk, or just, something that's not the smoking, it makes you 1% better. It gets you one step closer to forming a habit, right? Um, Habit tracking tools. I personally don't use any habit tracking tools, so I'm not going to go into that. Habit shape who we are and who we become. By understanding the science behind habits, harnessing neuroplasticity, and using practical strategies, you can take control of your routines and transform your life. Remember, taking time. Remember, change takes time, but every small step forward is progress. Start today by embracing the journey of growth, right? So let's go into decision fatigue again. Let's go into decision fatigue again. So, what is this? So, where we at? The decision fatigue. Decision fatigue refers to a phenomenon where the quality of decisions deteriorate after a long session of decision making. Essentially, the more decisions you make throughout the day, the more your mental energy becomes depleted, leading to poorer choices and decisions avoided later on. So that's why they say um, a lot of people, they make bad decisions at night. They make bad decisions at night, like to drink and drive, and just a lot of bad things happen at night because we've been making decisions all day. We wake up, we got to decide what to eat for breakfast. We got to decide um, what to wear. We got to you know what I mean? Just all of these small decisions, just they deplete you. They deplete your decision making ability throughout the day. It's just like your physical stamina. Your mental energy is for making decisions is finite. Each decision, no matter how small, uses up a bit of that energy. This is why uh, seemingly trivial decisions like what to eat and where can contribute to exhaustion. Can contribute to exhaustion. As decision fatigue sets in, you may resort to default choices that require less effort, choosing fast food over cooking a meal. This may make impulsive decisions, focusing on short-term rewards rather than long-term benefits. You may experience decision paralysis, avoiding making decisions altogether and just becoming in a slump. I've been in those places before. Everyday example of decision fatigue is struggling to decide what to eat for dinner after a long workday. Feeling overwhelmed when choosing between numerous options while shopping. Procrastinating on important tasks becomes the mental effort feeling too taxing. So I deal with this a lot. Mental fatigue. I deal with mental fatigue a lot. Decision fatigue, mental fatigue a lot. One way to combat it is simplify your life by creating routines or habits by reducing the need for decisions, or for instance, meal prepping, laying out your clothes the night before, or using default shopping lists for groceries, right? It cuts down your decisions, right? So what you want to do, I'm sorry, what you want to do is be able to pre-plan some of the decisions that you have to make. Pre-plan the decisions. Like, this is kind of why cartoon characters wear the same clothes, because they don't have to sit there and pick clothes every day. They don't have to sit there and pick clothes every day. They get to wear the same thing. It's limiting their choice, right? Reduce the number of options you need to consider. For example, stick to too few to go recipes or restaurants. Narrow your wardrobe to a capsule collection, which I don't. I like a variety in my clothes. Sometimes I have issues like even picking the cologne that I'm gonna wear for the day, right? Um. So yeah. Overall, the message I'm trying to convey is like, just have better understanding of who you are, the habits that you have, and I'm gonna get off this soon. Have better idea of who you are, the habits that you have, the how they affect you, how your habits affect you. You want to be able to be honest with yourself, and that's the first step. The first step is honestly being honest with yourself and figuring out who you are, and figuring out what you have in you that can benefit you in the long run, and what you have in you that is going to hinder you in the long run, and break those habits. I'm not saying it's going to be easy. It literally says 21 to 66 days. So that can be, and it's not going to happen on that first go around. It's going to take time. It's going to take you failing to you getting back on, on the right track, right? This is why they call it falling off the wagon, or it's another saying. I can't remember what it is. But the goal, one of the things that you got to do is habit stacking and anchoring, right? You want to break a habit. Every time you even think of that habit, you got to go and do something else to somewhat distract you. But you got to do the same thing and replace that old habit, so that you can then turn that into a habit. You can turn that into a habit instead. And yeah, that's what we got to do. That's what we got to do. So with that being said, again, I'm gonna release y'all in love. Y'all know how I end my videos. I'm gonna release y'all in love, release y'all in peace and harmony, release y'all in breaking bad habits. The year 2025 is the year of breaking bad habits, picking up good habits, building on our willpower, building on our decision making abilities, and building on who we are as a person to our core, not just the outside layer, who we are um intrinsically, and who we are to our core, right? And you can change who you are from the core. You just have to be willing to do it. You have to be willing to take that sacrifice and put the time in. Put the time in to figure out who you are and what it is that you're going to be able to do in the long run. If you want positive outcomes, you have to take away the negative input, right? Negative input only results to negative output. Positive input only results in positive output, right? So what you put in is what you're going to get out. And when it's you, that's the only person that's going to be affected by you. You have to hold yourself accountable, become your own accountability partner, and be hard on yourself, because no one else will. You know what I mean? And even if they do, they're not the ones that's with you 24/7. They're not the ones that's gonna be fully affected by your decisions, right? People can be hard on you and tell you, oh, stop eating all this bad food, or stop smoking, stop doing drugs, but their body is not affected by the drugs and the food that you eat. You know what I mean? You are. So with that being said, I'm gonna release y'all in love, release y'all in happiness. Remember, we got nothing but rich friends in 2025, and it has nothing to do with money. It's mind, body, and spirit, right? Have a rich mind, have a rich body, have a rich spirit. Create good habits, and benefit from it. With that being said, I love y'all. Peace out. I ended the video, but I might stay on the live for a little bit. There's a I want to listen to something real quick on this right here. Let's go with this, but all right, this is perfect. Let's listen to this and see if we can get something out of it. You must have a pragmatic. Damn, they read it too fast.
In a 2011 study, researchers followed
Can
a
I hear
group of judges, deciding whether or not to offer imprisoned individuals a chance at parole. Logically, one might expect things like an imprisoned person's crime, existing sentence, and current behavior to be the primary considerations. But while those details were duly examined, one variable had a remarkably large impact: the time of day.
Yeah. And I know what they're gonna say. The later in the day that you have to make a decision, the worse the decision making ability is going to be.
Imprisoned people who met with the board in the morning were far more likely to receive parole than those whose cases were reviewed in the afternoon, even if their crimes and sentences were practically identical. This finding might seem strange, but the researchers' explanation was simple. In the afternoon, the judges were likely exhausted.
Yep. Decision fatigue is true. The later it is in the day, the later it is in the week, the harder your decision, the worse your decision making ability becomes, right? Especially like if we go based on like the week, Fridays you're making bad decisions because not only are you want to try to be done with work and you're already thinking about the weekend, but you've already made decisions all week, right? Especially when it comes to like work and stuff like that. You just been decision after decision after decision, and you just want to, your brain literally wants to just be shut off for a little bit.
Specifically, they were experiencing decision fatigue. This kind of cognitive exhaustion occurs after a period of extended decision making, and it can make people more impulsive and less confident while making choices. The dangers of decision fatigue are clear in high-stakes scenarios like this study, but it can have a serious impact on our day-to-day lives as well. So what kinds of choices lead us to this state, and what can we do to fight fatigue? Everything our bodies do, whether physical or mental, uses energy. But while it's unclear exactly what resources are depleted during mental strain, studies have found many individuals seem to have a daily threshold for making decisions. And once that threshold is met, most people make the conscious choice to take it easy and save serious thinking about any new decisions for another day. How quickly you reach this threshold depends on several variables, including the frequency, complexity, and novelty of the decisions you have to make.
So limit your decisions, right? Try to plan. If you can take one day out the week and plan out your whole week with meal preps, with what you're gonna wear, certain things like that, those are small decisions, right, that we have to make every day. But they leave room for bigger decisions in the long run. They leave room for bigger choices and bigger opportunities in the long run. So limit your decisions, right? Make big decisions in bulk, if that makes sense.
For example, choosing what to eat for breakfast isn't very taxing. Not only is this decision limited by what's available, it's also a choice you expect to make once a day, with fairly low stakes. And even when you're not quite sure what to eat, the time between this minor decision and the next one should give you ample room to recover whatever cognitive energy you expend. But let's imagine something much trickier. For example, your car suddenly breaks down and you need to replace it right away. This is an unexpected, complicated decision with...
Because there's so many different ways you could go down that avenue, so many different things that there's so many different decisions within just that one decision. Is like, okay, well, let's listen to the video.
Serious consequences. In this case, there are countless options to choose from, and you won't find them all in one place. To make the optimal choice, you'll need to do hours of thoughtful research to consider the various pros and cons. And since this is a decision you don't often make, you'll also have to identify what considerations are most important. The time pressure can add additional stress both during the decision-making process and afterward, as you expend more energy wondering if you would have made a different decision with more time. After just a single decision of this magnitude, most people would have already reached their decision-making threshold. But in professions where individuals need to make multiple high-stakes decisions every day, decision fatigue can be much more dangerous. Judges, like those in the 2011 study, often encounter difficult decisions back to back with no time to recover. Many researchers are especially concerned about decision fatigue in medicine. Doctors often work long shifts full of life or death decisions,
And this is why, no matter what profession you're in, no matter what you do on a daily basis, these small decisions that you make in the morning, like the small decisions you make in the morning, what to wear, what to eat, you know what I mean? Those two basic ones. You need to not necessarily just not put so much thought into it and just go with the flow, but plan them out ahead of time so that you're not taking away your energy, your energy for making bigger decisions in the long run or throughout the day. Especially if you're in one of these big positions like a doctor or a judge, that you have people's lives in your hand, right?
Studies have found that medical workers are much more likely to make critical mistakes when working extended shifts. Addressing these issues requires institutional changes, but there are much more direct ways most of us can avoid fatigue in our daily lives. One simple strategy is to make fewer daily decisions, tackling your to-do list over multiple days, or even removing some rote decisions from your day altogether. It's also typically less draining to offer advice on a hard decision than it is to make that choice yourself. So it can be helpful to imagine your decisions as someone else's before considering how the consequences impact you specifically. Finally, it's essential to remember that not every choice is equally important, and learning how to relax about the small stuff can help you save energy for the decisions that truly matter. Did you know that there's a natural, altered state of consciousness that can provide positive emotions, creativity, and feelings of accomplishment? It's called flow, and we can all access it. Find out how with this.
All right, with that, that's the end of the live. I'm gonna get up out of here. See who we got. Yo, selling government issue baby raccoons tonight. The series. If you're the chill guy, look for the chill girl. Have you ever watched Arcane? I have watched Arcane. Namaste. Hey. Alright. Alright. How do I exit out of this? Are you sure you want to stop the stream?